Hello YouTube and welcome back. It is once again time for a build contest. We've had a couple days, nearly a week of patch 1.1, and there are so many sweet unique items. It was actually hard to pick one. So we could have done a unique item, we could have done Disintegrate, we could have done some of the new skills, or even just Forge Guard altogether. But for this build contest for patch 1.1, we're opting into a brand new unique two-handed spear, which I've spent some time making fun of spears in the past, but I think this one's pretty spicy. It's called Bane of Winter. So for this contest, we did not want to do one that had a unique item that only dropped from Aberoth at the very, very pinnacle boss fight, because I know some people haven't made it to the pinnacle boss fight yet. So Bane of Winter, it drops from Aberoth. You can farm it if you're farming the endgame boss, but it also drops from in one of the monoliths, empowered monoliths, the Age of Winter. So if you're in empowered monoliths, you can post up in Age of Winter and farm up one for yourself. And this is a really interesting, unique item. There's some some obvious stuff that we've been brainstorming. It seems like a lot of builds will be using a particular unique item to go along with it. But let's talk about Bane of Winter and help you brainstorm what you might do with it during the build contest. If you've never heard about my build contests in the past, we've been hosting them for a year and a half, 2 years at this point. I have a Discord that will be linked in the description of this video here. And you'll see if you scroll down that I have all kinds of archives for all the build contests that we've done in the past, all the submissions, all the discussion threads, all the announcement threads, and I even have a Last Epoch build contest here with a menagerie of initial ideas to get you started if you want to brainstorm what you might want to do on Bane of Winter for the build contest. So all of the details for when, where, why, how to submit, bug post and the submission post, the submission channel there is available for you. Again, if you've never seen my build contest, make sure you jump over to the YouTube side. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel of all the build contests that we've done in the past, and people seem to really like this. So this has been a lot of fun previously, and we're going to keep doing it right now. So Bane of Winter has some interesting text on it. First things first, it's a unique two-handed spear. So maybe a Titan Heart is something that you're interested in for having some extra defense, but you can decide on that. It has a whole bunch of melee damage at the implicit. It's got hybrid, physical, and elemental penetration for the deicide implicit up there. But let's get to the meat and potatoes. So it has a chance to cast Void Winter Bolts when you hit an enemy with Javelin, which is Sentinel specific, or a melee attack, up to 3 times per 2 seconds. So melee attack speed might be important if you're scaling melee damage or if you're proccing something else, but it's not too important because you have a cap on how many times you can proc that particular spell. I have Swipe equipped here, so let me show you what this looks like. Boop, boop, boop. Got some little void things that shoot out there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at that percent chance to proc. Oh, yeah, maybe you do want some attack speed, huh? So the rest of this, you have a... what is that typo? Void Winter Bolt critical? I think it's supposed to say critical, but it says critical. Strike multiplier per uncapped chill chance with melee attacks. Kind of weird scaling. It does more damage per uncapped time rot chance with melee attacks. Time rot chance is pretty tricky to pick up, but you basically have to be a VK if you want anything to do with that. It has cold damage taken as physical. We'll get to it. It's interesting. It means you don't need to build any physical or any cold resistance for your character. It's got some flat void, some flat melee, and the very last line of text I think is the most interesting one that I suspect we'll see a lot of people build around. So this is a 25 to 42, so kind of a big roll. Up to 42% chance of, 42% of added melee damage applied as added spell damage to cold and void spells. What matters most here is it adds it to spells, but it doesn't need to be flat cold melee damage. It doesn't need to be flat void melee damage. You could have flat necrotic melee damage, but it'll only get added to cold and void spells. So if you're trying to make use of this very last line of text, you need either a cold spell or a void spell. Void is predominantly just going to be a Void Knight or somewhere thereabouts on Sentinel. But cold, there's cold spells all over the place. So there's a couple build ideas that I want to share with you. Kind of brainstormed these so you can see what's going on. But first things first, let me show you Void Winter Bolt pulled up in lastepochtools.com. Some interesting stuff here is that it has good base damage, 60 cold and 60 void. It has added damage effectiveness of 600, which is a huge number for added damage effectiveness. Love to see that. It also scales percent increased damage off dexterity and percent increased damage off attunement. So kind of weird scaling, but I like it. We had some build ideas just to get you started in case you want to participate in this contest as well, because it's open to everyone. We have a shaman using a Bane of Winter and maybe using one or two of these chance for an avalanche boulder to drop on a nearby enemy. So the idea is this, is like, okay, we're going to attack with Tempest Strike. You can get a lot of attack speed off Tempest Strike. So like we're punching people with this. It's going to proc an avalanche boulder. The avalanche boulders have a chance to be a large boulder as well. All those boulder hits have a chance to give you a storm stack. And if we're generating storm stacks, we can spec into Gathering Storm. Gathering Storm converted to cold, so it gets the damage from the spear as well. And we have just enough here to make it look like, you know, maybe this could be something. It's kind of like a Spellblade feel. A lot of attack speed, a lot of hitting the enemies, and then proccing cold avalanche, proccing cold Gathering Storm, and a little bit of a Maelstrom off of Warcry. So Warcry for proccing the Maelstrom, Warcry for attack speed, Warcry for crit chance and percent increased damage. This looks like a nice place to start. It's one of the first things we discussed for this potential character. Another idea that you might have seen, we yoinked this off of Google. I don't know where this build guide comes from, but this is like someone else out there who had a similar idea for what to do with Spellblade. And I think Dread is even working on a YouTube video right now for what he would like to do for the contest, but also just because it's an interesting item. So the idea is like a Spellblade attacking with Mana Strike, and then Mana Strike procs your Frostclaw. In your Spellblade Mastery, you have even more nodes that proc Frostclaw on hit, and then you can also proc Ice Barrage because you're already doing some what do you call it? You're already doing like spell cold damage. So you attack with Mana Strike, you proc your Frostclaw, you proc your Ice Barrage, and it seems like there's a lot of good synergy going on here, along with Morning Frost, because Morning Frost, you stack Dexterity, you scale Bane of Winter, and then you also have percent increased critical strike chance off of per Dexterity, you scale some Intelligence, you get crit chance per Intelligence, so it looks like Spellblade is a great place to brainstorm some ideas too. The third build idea was like, what if you went Warlock? Well, it has no attack speed on it, so what if you did something with like Warlock, with Thonic Fissure, proccing Chaos Bolts, Chaos Bolt, proccing Harvest, and then you're like getting around the requirement for actually attacking with this thing, because it's just going to like proc your melee attacks, and then your melee attacks would proc the Void Winter Bolt. I'm not exactly sure if this interaction works. I assume that it does based on how it's written, but it's another cool idea of how you might be interested in using Bane of Winter. Fourth idea, 1, 2, 3, 4, is we talked about a Void Knight build. So you could do this in a different way as well. Like I guess you could do like Paladin or something, but a Void Knight, we have the ability to convert Smite to Void damage, and it's in the second half of the Void Knight skill tree. So I guess you have to be a Void Knight for this now that I look at where this node's located. So we convert Smite to being Void, so it works with Bane of Winter. And then we lunge. So you would build a whole bunch of cooldown recovery speed, and this actually reminds me a little bit of the cooldown recovery speed build contest that we've done in the past, because someone submitted a build that looked a little bit like this. So this character would be lunging into a pack of enemies. Their lunge would proc Javelin, and the lunge would also proc the Smites. The Javelin would also proc Smites based on the idols. Wait, no, based on the idols. Wait, Javelin. How's it work? Wait, I'm talking too much. Yeah, the Javelin, the lunge procs Javelin. Lunge also procs Smite, and then Javelin procs Smite. So then you'd have to be using the 2x2 idols that makes them. No, that's off throwing attack. No, yeah. You make it proc off throwing attack. I'm right. Hold on. So the basic idea is that you'd be attacking with Smite a whole lot. This build would not be using a melee attack. Instead, it would be using the Javelin text off of Bane of Winter. So you'd have enough attack speed. You'd be throwing your Javelin and also lunging around, proccing both the Smites and the Javelins off of lunge. And then some Anomaly and Volatile Reversal to round it out. This is a cool idea. I think this is the only idea we came up with that like used Javelin. I think it's also the only idea that came up with like using the void damage part of this instead of just like cold damage stuff. Two more ideas to round this out. One's a potential Rune Master, and the idea is, okay, well, if we're stacking Dexterity with Morning Frost, you've seen Morning Frost in a couple of these already, then, you know, Dexterity plus Fundamental Criterion, you could be a dex stacking build, and then get more damage per Dexterity off the Fundamental, and this could even be like a Plasma Orb character. It'd be pretty different because most Plasma Orb characters would use like a Mad Alchemist Ladle, for example, but you could end up using something like this. So this is another framework for a character here. I think a lot of these builds will probably end up wanting to use a Phantom Grip, this new unique ring that has 1 to 2 critical strike chance on it, so it's flat crit. And if you're using a spear, it means you don't get to use an offhand catalyst, which would otherwise be your source of flat spell critical strike chance. So 1 or 2 of these, maybe using a prismatic gaze, some kind of way to get flat critical strike chance on your character. Notable that the Spellblade character that we looked at previously has flat critical strike chance per intelligence. So they, on the Spellblade character, already have a nice kind of workaround for that. The last one here is something that I think I'm going to play as well. I like the looks of this, so I thought about it just a little bit more. So this is going to be a Beastmaster with Gathering Storm. So I'm planning on like leveling this on stream tomorrow, and then I'll be playing it as well. So Gathering Storm, it's like a melee plus spell damage thing, and I'm going to hit people with it. So we're going to be a Gathering Storm crit melee Beastmaster thing, scaling like melee damage and spell damage. Frenzy Totem for a big source of crit multi. Some normal Warcry Maelstrom thing. We'll have an unspec'd Fury Leap for a movement skill. And then just a little bit of Summon Sabretooth with all the defensive nodes spec'd. So I'm not thinking about Sabretooth in terms of being a DPS source, but Sabretooth spec'd as cold helps us make use of the Friends of the Tempest node in Gathering Storm for even more spell damage procs. And then as a Beastmaster, if I want to make use of the Aspect of the Lynx stuff for extra critical strike multiplier, then I need some kind of minion to activate Aspect of the Lynx. So this is my plan for the build. But I'm real curious to see what other people come up with as well, because this is an awesome item. It doesn't have like a clear-cut idea of what to do with it, but it has so much text, and you can ignore some of it, you can use some of it. I said at the very beginning that there was another unique item that we wanted to talk about, and that is Morning Frost. So I think you'll see a lot of people in this build contest use Morning Frost, not only for the high effectiveness of added damage that Bane of Winter has, it has cold damage taken as physical, which means one of the downsides of Morning Frost is that you have to build a bunch of Fizz Res and Cold Res. But if you take all of your cold damage as physical, it means you no longer need to build Cold Res to make up for that downside of Morning Frost. Not only that, but it has cold damage to spells and attacks per point of dexterity, so spells and attacks. And then this says percentage of your added melee damage is added to your spells. So it adds to spells and attacks, and then 41% more is added to your spells. So for every 1 point of flat damage for dexterity, you get like 0.41 gets added to your spells. So that seems like an exciting way to build up damage with this thing because it has such high damage effectiveness. So me too. I'm going to build dexterity on my Beastmaster, and we'll see what comes up with it. I'm interested to see what kind of javelin builds we can find. I'm interested to see what kind of VK or void damage build people come up with. And I guess I'm just really interested. It's the very last line of text on Bane of Winter sounds awesome. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you. Remember in the description of this video, you'll see links to my Discord, all the details of the build contest, the submissions, the guidelines, how the voting works, what the rewards are for it. All those other things are listed in Discord. Be sure to check it out in the pinned comment in the contest discussion channel, and you'll see everything that you need. So that's it for me. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.